Good afternoon, Eagles Nation. The energy in Philly is intense, and it's not just the cold wind coming off Lincoln Financial Field. What we witnessed in that last game wasn't just a loss, it was a wake-up call, a message that something's got to change right now if this team wants to fly back to the top. But before we dive into the breakdown, you already know the deal. Smash that like button, support the channel, and drop a comment below saying, "Fly, Eagles, fly," to show that this fan base still believes even when things get rough. Because today, we're getting real. What happened to that offensive wall that used to be the pride of Philadelphia? Why does this offense stall when it's time to strike? And most importantly, how can this team respond before it's too late? So get comfortable in the nest, because this conversation is about to take flight. Raw, passionate, and straight from the heart of Eagles Nation. Now, let's get into it. Now, let's talk about what's really happening. This loss to the Broncos wasn't just a bad day. It exposed some deep issues that the Eagles absolutely must fix if they want to make another Super Bowl run. The offensive line, once seen as an unshakable force in the NFL, gave up 6 sacks to a Denver team that came into the matchup ranked number 1 in sacks, pressure rate, and quarterback hits. That's not supposed to happen to a unit that's this talented and this expensive. Sure, some of that's on Jalen Hurts for holding the ball too long, but the protection breakdowns were too consistent to ignore. It's been a recurring issue all season, and fans are starting to wonder what's happening to one of the league's most respected offensive fronts. And then there's the run game. Saquon Barkley, one of the team's major offseason additions and a supposed offensive cornerstone, had just 6 carries for the entire game. 6. When you're up by 2 touchdowns, that's unacceptable. The Broncos sold out to stop the run, stacking the box and daring Philadelphia to throw, and so far, that strategy is working for opponents. Barkley averaged just 2.5 yards per carry, and when teams can commit that many defenders to the box, it means the Eagles must find consistency in their passing game. That responsibility falls on offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo, head coach Nick Sirianni, and of course, Jalen Hurts. Hurts himself, let's be honest, has become one of the most polarizing figures in the entire NFL. There's no middle ground when it comes to him. Fans and analysts either crown him as elite or dismiss him as overrated, and that's wild, considering what he's accomplished in just a few years. From being benched at Alabama to resurrecting his career at Oklahoma, from being a second-round pick seen as a project to becoming a Super Bowl MVP, Hurts' journey is one of the most inspiring in football. Yet, even after winning on the biggest stage, he continues to face harsh criticism. Against Denver, Hurts actually played well for most of the game.
He finished 23 of 38 for 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions, good for a passer rating over 100. Those numbers could have been much higher if not for a few costly mistakes around him. If A.J. Brown keeps running on that potential 60-yard strike, that's a game-sealing touchdown. If Jahan Dotson gets 2 feet down on his sideline catch, that's another explosive play. If Saquon Barkley is properly set before that perfect 4th down throw to DeVonta Smith, the Eagles might have been in position to take the lead. Each of those moments changed the entire outcome and the perception of Hurts' performance. But here's the thing, all of these mistakes are fixable. Hurts showed poise, touch, and leadership even when the offense stalled late. He read the blitz well, made the right throws, and showed flashes of the player who led this team to a championship. The real issues were the recurring penalties, the struggles against zone coverage, and the inability to sustain drives. When defenses go man-to-man, the Eagles look like one of the best offenses in football. But when opponents drop into zone, the rhythm dies. That's something Sirianni and Patullo must solve immediately because the film is out. Teams know that playing zone frustrates this offense. And let's not overlook the defense. For 3 quarters, Vic Fangio's group looked elite. They had rookie quarterback Bo Nix completely rattled. The defensive front pressured him, the secondary was tight, and the Broncos couldn't find rhythm. But as the offense failed to sustain drives, the defense simply ran out of gas. By the 4th quarter, they were gassed and gave up 18 straight points. Quinn Mitchell struggled against Cortland Sutton, and suddenly Denver was back in it. What was shaping up as a dominant defensive statement turned into an emotional gut punch. Still, there were bright spots. DeVonta Smith had his best game of the year with 8 catches for 114 yards, including a 52-yard bomb from Hurts, the longest completion of the Eagles' season. A.J. Brown looked strong in the first half, winning one-on-one battles with Patrick Surtain, last year's Defensive Player of the Year. There's proof that the passing game can thrive. The question is, can the Eagles make it consistent over 4 quarters? Now, here's a stat that really puts this loss into perspective. Out of 21 first down plays, 10 resulted in 0 or negative yards, and only 5 gained more than 5 yards. That's not just inefficient, it's a disaster. You can't build momentum or sustain drives when you're constantly in second and long situations. It puts pressure on Hurts, limits play calling, and gives defenses the advantage every time. It's not sustainable football, and the coaching staff knows it. So where do the Eagles go from here? They're still 4-1, and that's the important part. The season isn't falling apart, but this loss should serve as a wake-up call. Penalties, poor first downs, miscommunication, and inconsistency have all been part of the early season story. The difference between an elite team and a good one is the ability to fix those things fast. The good news? Most of these problems are fixable. The question is whether the coaching staff and players can clean it up before it costs them again. Hurts showed he can handle elite defenses. The defense showed flashes of dominance. The talent is still there. This is a Super Bowl caliber roster. But right now, execution and discipline are holding them back. The good news is that not all hope is lost. In fact, as chaotic and frustrating as that Broncos loss was, there are real signs that this Philadelphia Eagles team can clean things up and get back on track quickly. Because here's the thing, the problems we're talking about aren't structural, they're situational. They're penalties, missed assignments, mental lapses, and small breakdowns that add up in crucial moments. That's why Nick Sirianni and his coaching staff believe these are correctable issues, not fatal flaws. Let's start with the offensive miscues. False starts, illegal formations, ineligible men downfield. These things have plagued the Eagles through 5 weeks, but they're all coachable mistakes. Sirianni knows it. So does Kevin Patullo. And the players? They're owning it too. Tyler Steen's ineligible man downfield penalty? Fixable. Saquon Barkley not being fully set before that massive 4th down conversion? Fixable. These are not talent problems, they're focus problems, and that's what makes this situation both frustrating and hopeful at the same time. The officiating didn't do Philadelphia any favors either. There were a couple of calls that changed the tone of the game. That unnecessary roughness penalty on Zach Bond, a player simply finishing a tackle, wiped out what could have been a crucial defensive stop. Then on the final drive, Dallas Goedert was literally grabbed by the chest and pulled down with no flag. If that's called, the Eagles have a shot inside the 5-yard line to win the game. Small moments like that matter. They're the difference between 5-0 and 4-1. But even with the questionable calls, the Eagles know they had their chances to put the Broncos away long before the refs ever mattered. The silver lining here is the passing game. For the first time in weeks, it looked alive. Jalen Hurts delivered some absolute dimes under pressure, proving that when he's on, this offense can slice up even elite defenses. DeVonta Smith finally broke out, 114 yards on 8 catches and his best performance of the season. That 52-yard strike from Hurts to Smith wasn't luck. It was precision, timing, and confidence. And let's not ignore A.J. Brown. In the first half, he was dominating one of the best cornerbacks in football, Patrick Surtain, showing he still has that fire. Sure, he got quiet in the second half, but the flashes are there. The foundation is there. And now the Eagles have a short week to make a statement. They're heading into Thursday night football against the New York Giants, a team that's reeling, one of the worst in the league, and dealing with a rookie quarterback and a coaching staff in disarray. The Giants turned the ball over 3 times in their last game, including 3 lost fumbles, and they've struggled to protect their passer. This is the perfect get-right game for Philadelphia. A chance to unleash that defensive front, dominate the line of scrimmage, and rebuild confidence on both sides of the ball. Think about what happened last season. In Week 6, the Eagles faced the Giants after a rough start and used that game to rediscover their identity. They found balance. They got the run game going. They reminded everyone who they were. That moment sparked a run that carried all the way to the postseason. Here we are again, Week 6, same opponent, same opportunity. Nick Sirianni's teams have a history of improving as the season goes on. He adjusts. He learns. Since taking over in 2021, he's proven that his squads get better as the weeks roll by. That's not by accident. It's culture. It's preparation. And it's leadership. The locker room still believes in the process. Jalen Hurts still has the respect of every man in that room. Guys like Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, they've seen rough stretches before, and they've always found a way to bounce back. And if you look around the league, the Eagles are not alone. There are no undefeated teams left. The Bills just lost. The 49ers have looked shaky. Even Kansas City has stumbled. This is a league built on parity. The difference between good and great is execution, and that's where Philadelphia must focus. Clean up the penalties, improve on first downs, and find ways to beat zone defenses, and this team can once again look like the NFC powerhouse we know they can be. The biggest concern right now? The offensive line play and the lack of a running game. Those two go hand in hand. When the run isn't working, it makes the offense predictable. Defenses pin their ears back and tee off on Hurts. That's what Denver did. Philadelphia has the personnel to dominate in the trenches. They just need to reestablish that identity. You can't have a quarterback taking 6 sacks and expect to win consistently. And if Howie Roseman sees this continuing, don't be surprised if he makes a move before the trade deadline to shake things up front or add another versatile piece on offense. Defensively, the absence of Nolan Smith has been felt, but the issue runs deeper. Through 5 weeks, the edge rushers have combined for just half a sack. That's not good enough for a team built on defensive pressure. The interior has been solid, but the edge rush simply hasn't created the havoc this defense relies on. The Eagles need that energy, that burst off the edge, especially if they want to close out games like they failed to do against Denver. But again, let's zoom out. This is still one of the most talented rosters in football. The leadership is intact. The locker room isn't fractured. The coaching staff is fully aware of what needs fixing. This is not panic time in Philadelphia. This is gut check time. Championship teams don't crumble after one bad week. They respond. They correct. They rise. So here's the real question for the fans. Do you believe this Eagles team can clean up the details, restore their identity, and start another dominant run toward the Super Bowl? Or are you worried that these cracks go deeper than they appear? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're still riding with this team no matter what, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and get ready, because the next game could tell us everything we need to know about the heart of the 2025